How did a basic football drill turn into a full-blown controversy overnight? Seriously, out of everything happening in college football right now, people are losing their minds over a practice clip from the Colorado Buffaloes. Players standing in a circle, owning their mistakes, doing a few up-downs, and somehow that's being called a problem. It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what's happening. And the moment this clip hit the internet, the reactions came flooding in. Some people were calling it embarrassing. Others said it was for the cameras. There's even been talk online, with some viewers claiming this is just another example of the program trying to put on a show instead of focusing on real football. But here, the question nobody's really asking. Why is this even a big deal? Because if you've ever been around the game, real practices, real locker rooms, you already know this isn't unusual. In fact, it's basic. This is accountability. This is what teams do when they're trying to build discipline. So why is it suddenly controversial now? Well, that's where things start to shift. Because this isn't just about a drill, it's not even really about the players, and it's definitely not about a few push-ups in practice. This is about something much bigger. This is about Deion Sanders and the spotlight that follows him everywhere. It all started with a clip that, on the surface, looked completely normal. Players from the Colorado Buffaloes were standing in a circle during practice. One by one, they stepped forward, admitted their mistakes, and took accountability in front of the team. A dropped pass, a missed read, a blown assignment, each player owned it. Then came the consequence, a quick set of up-downs. Simple, direct, move on. Nothing flashy, nothing extreme. But the internet saw it very differently. Within hours, the clip started spreading everywhere. And just like that, the reactions poured in. Some people called it embarrassing. Others said it was too performative. There's been a lot of buzz online, with some viewers claiming this was all staged for attention, another example of Colorado trying to stay in the spotlight. And that's where things started to spiral. Because suddenly, a basic accountability drill turned into a full-blown debate. People who have never stepped foot in a locker room were breaking it down like it was some kind of controversial tactic. Comments flooded in questioning the culture, the coaching, even the intent behind the drill itself. But here what makes this moment so interesting. If you strip away the noise, what are you actually left with? A team holding players accountable. That's it. No over-the-top punishment, no humiliation, just players being told to own their mistakes, say it out loud, and keep it moving. In football terms, this is about as standard as it gets. In fact, many would argue this is the foundation of discipline: recognize the mistake, correct it, and don't repeat it. Yet somehow this became a problem. And that tells you something important. Because this reaction wasn't really about what was happening in the clip, it was about how people felt about it, or more specifically, who it was coming from. Because if this exact same drill happens somewhere else, there's a good chance nobody even notices. But here, it blew up. And that's when you realize this story was never just about a practice drill. If you've ever actually been around football, even at a basic level, this entire situation feels blown way out of proportion. Because what the Colorado Buffaloes are doing in that clip, that's not controversial, that's not unusual, that's not even advanced coaching. That's day one stuff. Accountability drills like this exist at almost every level of the game. High school, college, even parts of the pros. You mess up, you step up, you own it in front of your teammates. No excuses, no hiding. Then you do a quick physical reset, push-ups, up-downs, whatever it is, and you move on. That's how discipline gets built. And more importantly, that's how trust gets built. Because football isn't just about talent, it's about knowing the guy next to you is going to do his job. And when he does, he owns it. Out loud, in front of everyone. That's what creates accountability inside a locker room. But here, where the disconnect comes in. A lot of the loudest voices criticizing this, they've never been in that environment, they've never had a coach call them out, they've never had to stand in front of teammates and admit they messed up. So when they see it, it feels harsh, it feels unnecessary, it even feels performative. But in reality, it's the opposite. It's structure, it's culture. It's one of the simplest ways to make sure mistakes don't repeat themselves. And here's the key detail people are missing: this wasn't punishment. Nobody was getting singled out or embarrassed. Every player had to do it. Star players, backups, everyone, that's what makes it work. It's not about breaking players down, it's about holding everyone to the same standard. There's also been a lot of talk online with some people claiming this was done for the cameras. But even that doesn't fully hold up, because drills like this happen all the time behind closed doors. The only difference here is this one got seen. And once it got seen, it got judged. But that says more about the audience than the drill itself. Because to anyone who's been in a real football environment, this isn't shocking at all. It's expected. And that's exactly why the reaction feels so off. Because what people are calling too much is actually just football. But here, where the conversation really shifts, because this was never actually about the drill. It's about the Colorado Buffaloes. The moment that clip hit the internet, people weren't just reacting to what they saw, they were reacting to who they were watching. And that changes everything. Because right now, Colorado isn't just another program, they're one of the most talked about teams in college football. And when you're in that position, everything gets magnified. Every practice clip becomes content. Every speech becomes a headline. Every small moment gets picked apart like it's something bigger than it really is. There's been a lot of buzz online, with some fans suggesting that anything coming out of Colorado is automatically viewed through a different lens, one that's already skeptical. And that's where the criticism starts to feel selective. Because if another team runs this exact same drill, it probably doesn't even trend. It doesn't go viral. Nobody's breaking it down frame by frame. It just stays what it is, a normal part of practice. But with Colorado, it turns into a debate. Why? Because people are already watching, waiting, and in some cases, hopping to find something wrong. There's also been speculation that the program gets labeled as extra or performative, no matter what they do. So when a clip like this surfaces, some viewers don't even judge the drill itself, they judge the idea of Colorado, the brand, the attention, the spotlight. And once that narrative is in place, everything starts to fit into it. Even something as simple as accountability. That's why this reaction feels different. It's not neutral. It's not just analysis. It's layered with opinion, expectation, and in some cases, bias. And whether people want to admit it or not, that plays a huge role in how this entire situation is being perceived. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't just a practice moment going viral. It was a program under a microscope. And then there's the one factor you can't ignore, Deion Sanders. Because whether people want to admit it or not, he changes everything. The moment Coach Prime stepped into Colorado, the entire program shifted from a regular team to a national storyline. Every move, every quote, every practice clip suddenly carries weight, not because it's always groundbreaking, but because it's him. And that spotlight, it never turns off. That's what makes this situation different. Because this drill by itself isn't controversial, but when it's attached to Coach Prime, it becomes something bigger. There's been a lot of buzz online, with some fans claiming that everything around Colorado feels staged or for attention. Not necessarily because of what's happening, but because of the brand that's been built around the program. And that's where opinions start to split. On one side, you've got people who believe Coach Prime is bringing energy, discipline, and accountability back into the spotlight. They see this drill and think, that's how you build a team. Simple, direct, effective. But on the other side, there are critics who question everything. They don't just watch the drill, they analyze the intent behind it. They wonder if it's genuine or if it's part of a bigger image. And even if there's no proof of that, the perception alone is enough to fuel the conversation. That's the Coach Prime effect. Nothing is neutral. Everything gets interpreted, debated, and sometimes even twisted into something it's not. And the bigger he gets, the louder those reactions become. Because with attention comes scrutiny, and right now, Colorado is getting all of it. What's interesting, though, is how this changes the standard. Because if another coach runs the same drill, it's called discipline. When Coach Prime does it, it becomes a discussion, a debate, a headline, and that double standard, that's exactly what keeps moments like this going viral. So at this point, it's not just about what happened in practice. It's about who's running it. And with Coach Prime, that's always going to come with noise. But here, where the whole situation starts to feel contradictory. Because the same people criticizing the Colorado Buffaloes right now they're often the exact same ones who have been saying this team lacks discipline. Think about that for a second. All offseason, the narrative has been that Colorado isn't serious enough, that they rely too much on hype, that they don't have structure, don't have toughness, don't have the kind of culture needed to win consistently. That's been one of the loudest criticisms surrounding this program. But now we're seeing players being held accountable, publicly, directly, no sugarcoating, and suddenly that's a problem too. That's where it stops making sense. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say a team lacks discipline and then turn around and complain when they start enforcing it. That's not analysis anymore, that's just moving the goalposts. There's been a lot of discussion online about this exact contradiction. Some fans are pointing out that if this same drill happened at a traditional powerhouse, it would be praised, it would be called leadership, it would be framed as strong coaching. But because it's Colorado, the tone shifts. And that shift is what's driving this entire conversation. Because now, it's not really about what the players are doing, it's about how people want to interpret it. Some see accountability, others see theatrics, some see discipline, others see a performance. And once those opinions are locked in, everything gets filtered through them. That's why this moment feels bigger than it should. It's exposing a double standard. One where the expectations for Colorado keep changing depending on what they do. If they're loose, it's a problem. If they tighten things up, that's a problem too. And when a team can't win either way in the public eye, it creates a narrative that's almost impossible to escape. Which leads to a bigger question. Is this really about what Colorado is doing wrong? Or is it about people already deciding how they feel about them, no matter what they do next? But if you really look past the noise, this moment actually tells you something important about the Colorado Buffaloes, and it's not what the critics are saying. It tells you this team is being coached. Not hyped, not protected, not handed excuses. Coached. Because what you're seeing in that drill isn't about punishment, it's about standards. It's about creating an environment where mistakes don't get ignored or brushed off. They get addressed immediately, out loud, in front of everyone, and that might feel uncomfortable, but that's exactly the point. That's how you build accountability. And more importantly, that's how you build a team that can handle pressure. There's been a lot of talk about Colorado entering a new phase, new systems, new expectations, and a lot more eyes watching every move. And when you're in that kind of spotlight, you can't afford to be soft internally. You can't afford players who shut down when they get called out. You need guys who can take criticism, adjust, and respond fast. Because Saturdays don't give you time to figure it out. So what this drill really shows is a shift in mindset. A shift from just talent to discipline, from just energy to structure. And those are the details that separate teams that look good on paper from teams that actually win games. Now, to be fair, this doesn't mean everything is perfect. There's still a lot to prove. A drill like this doesn't guarantee success, but it does show intent. It shows direction. It shows that the focus isn't just on the outside noise, it's on fixing things internally. And that matters more than anything. Because at the end of the day, talent might get attention, but discipline is what gets results. And if Colorado is starting to lean into that, then this clip isn't something to criticize. It's something to pay attention to. And this is where things really split down the middle, because now it's not just a reaction, it's a full-on divide. On one side, you've got people looking at the Colorado Buffaloes and saying, this is exactly what they need. They see accountability, structure, and real coaching. To them, this drill is a sign that the team is tightening up, getting serious, and building the kind of culture that actually translates on game day. But on the other side, it's a completely different story. There's been a lot of buzz online, with some critics claiming this is all part of a bigger image, that it's not just about development, it's about presentation. Some believe the program leans too heavily into moments that look good on camera, and that even basic drills start to feel like content instead of pure coaching. Now, to be clear, there's no solid proof of that, but the perception is there, and in today's world, perception spreads fast. And once that idea takes hold, everything gets filtered through it. A simple drill becomes performative, a speech becomes scripted, Even discipline starts getting questioned, not because of what it is, but because of how people think it's being used. That's what makes this situation so interesting. Because both sides are watching the same clip, but seeing two completely different things. One side sees a team being built. The other sees a brand being managed. And neither side is really backing down. This divide is only getting stronger because every new clip, every new moment just adds more fuel to the debate. Supporters double down, saying this is what winning programs look like behind the scenes. Critics double down, saying it's all part of the show. And right in the middle of all that, the truth gets harder to pin down. Because at some point, it stops being about the drill, the players, or even the coaching itself. And it turns into a narrative war. A constant back and forth over what Colorado really is. And until that gets settled or proven on the field, this split isn't going anywhere. And when you step back and look at everything, the truth becomes pretty clear. This was never about a drill. It was about perception. Because right now, the Colorado Buffaloes aren't just being watched, they're being judged. Every move gets analyzed, every moment gets turned into a talking point, and every small clip gets blown up into something bigger than it actually is. That's the reality of being one of the most talked about programs in the sport. And a big reason for that. Deion Sanders. He brings attention, he brings energy, but he also brings scrutiny. And when you combine all of that, you get situations like this, where something completely normal suddenly turns into a full-blown controversy. But here's the real takeaway. This moment says less about Colorado and more about how people already feel about them. Because if you support the program, you see discipline, structure, and a team getting better. If you don't, you see something else entirely. Maybe you call it unnecessary, maybe you call it performative. Either way, the reaction is already decided before the clip even starts playing. And that's why this keeps happening. Because Colorado has become bigger than just football. It's a storyline, it's a debate, it's something people have opinions about before they even see the evidence. And once that happens, every moment, no matter how small, feeds into that narrative. So when people ask, is this drill actually a problem? That's almost the wrong question. The real question is, why does everything they do feel like one? Because until that changes, it won't matter what Colorado shows on the field or in practice. The conversation will always be there, the reactions will always be split. And maybe that's the biggest reality of all. This isn't just a team anymore. It's a spotlight. Or is it everything around it?